Hello everyone, it's Catherine Maley and welcome to tonight's presentation called Are You Chasing the Wrong Patients? So this is going to be 100% content, so you want to grab a pen and paper. And here's what you're going to discover. Which cosmetic patients respond best to you, what's not working but is costing you a fortune, and the easiest ways to attract specific cosmetic patients to your practice. Now I'm going to lay out the strategies along with samples and results so you too can attract the right patients. Now I'm giving you lots of strategies here proven to work, and I'll be going fairly quickly. Now, there'll be time for questions at the end, so if you do need clarification, go ahead and type your questions into the question box anonymously, and I'll answer them at the end if I haven't already. And I have a very special offer for you to help make it easier for you to execute these ideas, so please stay tuned. Now, it's only good for a very limited time and only for those on this webinar, so please stay tuned. And just in case you don't know me because this invitation was forwarded to you, I'm Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice and president of Cosmetic Image Marketing, where we get you more patients and more profits. Now, we do that through done-for-you marketing services, on-site practice assessment, as well as staff training. Now, I write for the trade publications and I speak at the medical conferences throughout the U.S., as well as London, Milan, Switzerland, and Madrid. And I'm working on Australia next. So since the year 2000, I have devoted my entire career to the plastic surgery industry, helping plastic surgeons better understand the cash-paying patients so they attract, convert, and retain more of them. Now, on a personal note, I get asked a lot where I'm based out of, and that would be right outside San Francisco. Now, it's called Sausalito. It's got cute little boats. It's great for hiking, lots of nature, and the best time to visit is actually in September and October. So let's jump in because here are the challenges of cosmetic patient attraction today. Here's the biggie. Your market is everybody in today's world. Now, wouldn't you think that's terrific? Like in the old days, sorry, but I mean, the old days not too long ago, this was strictly for celebrities or for certainly just the affluent. But now it's available to anybody because there are so many different price points, and the stigma has decreased dramatically. And the way I look at that is almost like your home is a house. So when you have a house, you will add to it if you need to, you will renovate parts of it if you need to, or you'll completely rehab the entire house if you need to. So it's no different than our bodies. You know, we take care of our minds, we take care of our houses, we might as well take care of our bodies too. Now also, there's so many social trends going on. People are no longer staying married forever, they're suddenly single, they're getting remarried, they're having their third wedding. I mean, who knows? People are suddenly unemployed and back on the job market. All sorts of social things are going on. So that's good news for you because now your market really is everybody. Now, here's the big problem though. Everybody is everywhere. It's insane how many media outlets there are online and offline for you to connect with new patients. So on the one hand, you think, oh my God, this is fantastic. Look at all these places I can find patients. Well, if you really think about it, you're never going to have the time, the money, and the know-how to be in all these places. And new ones open up all day long. And I wrote in the middle there, yikes, because how in the world are you going to bond with somebody who's everywhere and they're nowhere? That's how I look at it. Because here's what happens. This equals way too much noise for the cosmetic patient. They are all over the place. They're clicking everywhere. And now they're inundated with information, which creates confusion. It also leads to ADD, which is attention deficit disorder. So it's super tough to get their attention long enough for them to even notice you. Even if they notice, for them to stop and understand what your message is, you've got to grab their interest enough where they actually take action to contact you. That's a huge hurdle. And on top of that, all these technical advancements, again, it's good news and bad news. It's good news because it gets more people and more potential patients interested in looking good and feeling great. And a lot of them might be scared of surgery, let's say, or they don't think they need surgery. So this can be really good. However, if you're a surgeon, it's hurting you because people are spending a lot less money on it if they don't have to. They would rather hold off on surgery if they can. So now we've got the non-surgeons and the med spas wooing them over to the non-surgical side, which means you're going to have to pay a lot more to find those patients that are actually ready for surgery. Or you invest in non-surgical technologies, but then you've got to compete with a much bigger marketplace. So now you're not just competing with the other plastic surgeons. Now you're competing with the non-surgeons and the med spas and the franchises and all of that. But here's an invisible challenge that's also affecting you every day that you may be overlooking. Now, when you go after everybody and you offer everything and you're the jack of all trades, now you're playing the game of quantity versus quality. And that can run your staff ragged, and it can lead to burnout, staff turnover, and lots of confusion. What I mean by that is when you attract everybody like, let's say, for example, on the internet, you now have to weed through all of those who are actually serious, they're not just looky-loos, who actually show up for their appointment, who are comfortable with you and your practice, so they say yes and they give you money. That's a lot to make happen. Now that takes a huge amount of energy on your staff's part. And it's not very rewarding when they feel like they're spinning their wheels because most of the patients seem flaky. I'm sure you've heard them say that to you before. And if you have, it may be time to take a look at your patient attraction plan. Because here's the big takeaway. Cosmetic patients are not created equal. Each generation and each gender has its own characteristics, their own values, attitudes, and belief systems based on life experiences. And that affects the way they act, the way they take in information, as well as make decisions. Now let's go through some of the demographics. For example, the male cosmetic patient. Now, at the meetings I go to, all the magazines, I just got another industry magazine today, and all they ever talk about, and same thing with the vendors, are how the men are the fastest growing demographic. I'm sure you've heard that yourself. I really would say and suggest strongly that you look at the overall numbers. They're still only 10 to 15% of the overall revenues. So why would you go off on this tangent when you can simply and inexpensively tell 85% of your female patients about your services and then let them sell you to the men in their lives? Doesn't that make more sense? Now, an example I see a lot of is when a surgeon buys a hair regrowth device, or whatever those are called, hair transplantation devices. It's expensive to buy, but it's even more expensive to market, since now you have to find the men who are losing their hair. It's a completely different ballgame. And the human characteristics of men isn't helping. We all know, if you know any men, they're fairly private. They're pretty quick to act, and they have a very strong fight or flight mechanism built in. So if there's any ounce of pain involved, they're usually out of there. So here's what a typical male is saying while they're in their office. Even though they're not saying it, I want to get in and out and get it done fast. This is not where they want to spend their time. It's an awkward place for them to be. So you've got to make it quick and easy and painless. So if you do attract a male to your practice, let's say you've had good luck, you've attracted a male, well, it's not sustainable since they're not exactly sharing their beauty secrets like females do. Now, obviously, if you're catering to the gay population, because these guys are excellent grassroots marketers in general, speaking in generally, I must say, this is not the first demographic I would invest in. It's not that it's a bad demographic, males, it's just not the first one I would invest in. So now let's talk about the younger patient. This one's tough too because she's multitasking. She's got a lot of attention deficit disorder. She's not at all focused. She's doing 10 things at one time, and that really makes it tough to get her attention. Now her characteristics for the younger cosmetic patient is they're super tech savvy. Boy, they sure understand this stuff. I mean, the older generation is struggling with it, and the younger ones just grew up with it. And I find this really ironic. They're very materialistic, yet they're broke. So I don't get that at all. And they have super weak brand loyalty. They really don't care who they're going to like another demographic might. Now, their whole thing is they want what they don't have. For example, breasts or lips, that kind of thing. So their message is, text me your offer and I'll see what all my friends, real or fake, say about it on my favorite social media sites. Now that's a tough group to market to because you can't really say much in a text other than an offer. That's what you've got to go with there. So you have to deal with that. Now here's the only good news about the younger patient. They're sharing a lot. And that's what's so appealing because there are millions of them and all day long they're texting and they're sharing. However, I think that means they're also not working or making money because they're goofing off all day on social media. And the challenge is they're all over the place. So it's not like they're in one social media site. These people are so advanced, they're just everywhere. So you've got to get their attention or you have to somehow figure out how to be wherever they are. And the top ones in our industry are typically like Instagram and texting, of course. But did you notice like Pinterest was the place to go? And now I don't think I've heard Pinterest for a while. And of course, they're all looking for memorable experiences or watching other people's memorable experiences. And then anything celebrity is good with them. So now you've got to figure out how to treat celebrities and then maybe you'll get their attention. Now here's some more challenges with the younger patient. They want it cheap and fun. And they don't have much money or disposable income. So now you've got to figure out what do they want from you? Well, they want it as cheap as possible and free would be even better. And that's how Groupon became so popular. But you know as well as I do, if you start that relationship with that, you're going to not have a great relationship forever because if you start with price, you're going to have to lead with price forever and blah, blah, blah. So here are a couple other challenges. Typically, they're a one-hit wonder because they're so young, they don't have a bunch of needs. Like maybe they want a breast dog, but then what? They're pretty good for another 20 years. Another thing that happens is they can be the flakiest group. They're the biggest no-shows. Price is much more important to them than your skill is. And aren't they the first to complain online? I know a lot of you hate Yelp, but this group loves Yelp. So you've got to deal with that. And by the way, they're all about the internet, so I understand you have to be on the internet. But did you know that on the internet, out of 100% of the people on the internet, only 3% are ready to buy right now? So let's talk about breast dog. There are 300,000 of them done per year, which is fantastic. However, only 3% are ready to buy right now, and you're competing with the thousands of other plastic surgeons going after that breast dog patient. That's tough, and that's competitive, and that takes a ton of money to be there when they are ready. And this group hates email, and they prefer texting. Well, it's pretty hard to market to that because text marketing is not exactly helping our cause because we're such a visual industry. That's going to be a challenge. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the middle-aged patient. And it's tough to say nowadays what middle-aged is, but I'm just going to go ahead and say, let's say it's between like the 30 and 55-year-olds. And personally, I like this group a lot because they have more money to spend, they're fairly loyal, they want convenience and value, not just price, and they distrust mass advertising. And emotionally, what I like about them is they want back what they lost. So because they've got financial wherewithal, most of them are in the job market, or maybe they're married, or they hang around with others like them. So what I like about them is that they can become your practice ambassadors to help you grow. Now, their message is they want back what they lost, but they're going to research, and then they're going to talk to my closest friends to see what they know, and then I'll research some more before deciding. This is the most skeptical group we've got because they grew up with all of the political funny business going on and the mass advertising, and they're not into that anymore. They're going to research themselves, and they're going to figure out who's the best for them. And they really like social media. So I mean, I'm sorry, not social media. They really like social proof. They're not going to listen to you. They're going to listen to your patients who have done work with you, and they want to hear their stories in detailed information. They also like loyalty programs, and that's why blogs got so popular, because people like to research in an educational kind of way, but in a more personal way. So if she can read other stories about people just like her, who also was in the same pain she was in, had the same thing done that she wants done, and now they're loving life, that's what she's looking for. So if you want to go down the blog trail, the issue with that is, for you, is you're a pretty darn busy surgeon and business owner and probably husband or wife, or gosh, you've got a lot of hats to fill here. On top of that, now you have to be a writer. So you either write yourself and spend the time doing that, or you get somebody to write for you, but then, you know, people, that's a tough one because you're supposed to be the writer. And then another maybe shortcut is you could actually be the guest blogger on some of these blogs. I'll tell you, some of these blogs, like these mommy blogger blogs, they have hundreds of thousands of visitors, or I'm sorry, followers that just love them. So you could actually get some visibility through their audience, or to their audience through the blogger, but you have to reach out to them and give them good content, because bloggers are always looking for great content. So if you give them some content, you could be their guest speaker, or not speaker, but guest blogger. But just keep in mind, they have people all over the world. And I know it's an ego boost when somebody comes from another country to, to you. However, that's not how you grow a typical practice. You want people local, because then you want their friends to come who are local. So the thing with the blogging is you're going to have to weed out those who are serious, those who are just going to email you and ask you questions, and again, waste your time and waste your staff's time and burn them out. So you have to think about that. Now, Facebook is this group's go-to information media, social media channel. And here's the problem with Facebook. People want to go to Facebook to be entertained, or to show off, right? Or to brag about their kids. That's what they do. So in order to interrupt somebody on Facebook, you better be strategic about it. So if you notice with the little red arrow on the left side, I put in an ad, and it's right in the middle of the stream, so it's not interrupting them on the side, because on the side they know it's an ad. So in the stream, it looks kind of like a blog post, and it says, thinking about liposuction? Here are the 5 things you need to know. And then they can click on that, but now you're asking them to click away from Facebook, which they'll be, probably ticked off about. But at least if you do that, they were interested in liposuction, and now you click and there's their special report, The Truth About Liposuction. So you're subtly marketing to them with education, and that's probably the best, the best approach you can go with this group. But here's an easier and a cheaper strategy that I would use before I even bothered with the Facebook, because there's a lot of money involved in that, although it's worth a try for sure. But here's something easier that you can do right away. All I would do is take photos of your patient, the before and after photos, at their post-op visit, have a card that says, "Thank you for your trust," and make sure your name and contact information's on it, and give them their before and after photos, and of course include some referral cards in there so they can pass it out to their friends and family. That's a much easier approach, don't you think? And this group happens to like fun patient events. I've noticed when I used to do a lot of events, whenever we used the theme Girls Night Out, that one worked the best. It was kind of like, leave your husband at home, come have some wine and shop with the girls. That was a really good one. So this group is looking for a nice evening out with some fun and some relaxation. You can also use this group to work with them on, let's say, school fundraising events, or anything that has to do with groups of mommies. So let's say, for example, they call you and say, "Oh, can you donate some money to a fundraising event we'd like to put together?" Well, you could say, "You know what, I can do better than that. I have a gorgeous office. Why don't you have your fundraiser here? We can use my venue. It won't cost you anything, and we can set it up here." So think about things like that. Try to get more creative in today's world, because the best thing you can ever do is get patients to know where you are, who you are, where to park, just get more familiar with you. Now, another demographic worth catering to is the mature patient, of which I am one of. Now, I like this group a lot because they have endless needs. And boy, can I vouch for that. So if a patient cares how they look today, they're definitely going to care tomorrow and next month and next year and a decade from now as the years go on and the aging process proceeds. So her motivations and her values are different than the younger girl. And I got to tell you, the media and the social trends have really encouraged this demographic to keep it together so they stay competitive in business as well as socially. So a lot of people just aren't going to go down. They're not going to be their mom or their grandma at that age. Like, they don't want that. They don't mind getting older, but they definitely don't want to look old or feel old. And they certainly have a lot more financial wherewithal to invest in themselves. Now, another great thing about them is they're more affluent, of course. They're more loyal. They value personal relationships, which can be good or bad, because if they want to, they want to feel like you cherish them. So that takes some time. So you can't play a big numbers game if you're going to cater to this demographic. They don't want to feel like a factory where they're in and out of there really fast. What I like about them for plastic surgeons is they do value your quality and they do respect your authority. The younger girls could care less that you have like 14 years of knowledge or education backing you up in training. They don't care about that. They just care that you worked on a celebrity. Whereas this group really does care about, where'd you come from, how many surgical procedures have you done, and they'll pay a fair price for that kind of quality and authority. So I like that a lot. So here's what their message is. Who do I trust to be the expert, and or who do I know who can refer me to someone that I could trust, right? So one way to be seen as the expert is through educational pieces that are subtly bragging about your credentials, your skills, and your expertise. So with that, I always like to show this like position the physician signage. I would also use all of your logos. Always use all of them. Anyone you have, use them. Use any article or magazine covers that you have been seen in or written about. Use everything you've got. And please add up the number of surgical procedures you've done, or if you've done a whole bunch of one procedure, make sure they know that. This demographic really does care a lot about what you've been doing with your life. They also love research. So if you happen to be somebody who likes to do research or likes to write, please make it known on your website. Put it in your get to know us packet. Just make sure that they know about all of the content. The more the merrier. They're going to read your long CV, whereas the younger girls could care less, and they're going to read your articles, so please go for it. And they also like the old school communications such as direct mail. I'm not going to go into it, but direct mail has made a big comeback, and I will tell you why. Because it's getting so difficult to find people on the internet with our, to educate them about this kind of thing. You need another avenue to get someone's attention one-on-one. But it's got to be heartfelt and it's got to be personal so they feel a connection with you. So you can always send greeting cards or a heartfelt letter. And then this demographic, the more mature patient, definitely likes the educational events because they love the FaceTime with you. The more FaceTime they have with you, the more they build credibility and trust with you. So I highly recommend educational. Not so much fun. They don't need fun. They're, a more mature patient who's thinking about renovating their body and or face, they're definitely looking for education and the trust in you. So what's the solution? Because by now you're probably saying, great ideas, Catherine, but what now? Like, what's your point? Okay, well, here it is, and I'm going to say it in a quote. The key to success is not doing more, it's doing more of what works. Right? So here's the point. Follow your successes first before you go off on expensive tangents not proven to help your bottom line. And here's what I mean. You want to take a look at data in your database, in your computer software system, because the answers are in your numbers. So for example, tomorrow, if you would just do this simple exercise, you're going to be way ahead of the game. Jot down the last 40 to 100, what happened? Jot down the last 40 to 100 surgeries or big ticket procedures you've done, and write down what was the patient's name, where did they come from, how did they hear about you, what was the procedure they had done, what was that revenue worth to you, and then their demographics, what was their age, their zip code, and their gender. I really like this because it just tells you so much about who seems to be attracted to your patient. And by the way, if you don't like the answers, that's when you have to start taking a look at how are you attracting patients to you. Now here, if you don't want to do that, you could at least, and if you've got a pretty good computer system, at least do this. Pull a report called Breakdown Revenues by Procedures. Now what I like about this is money is attracted to clarity, because you want to dump the losers and the distractions. For example, if you notice, all of these treatments are terrific. You know, we've got injectables, CoolSculpting, abdominoplasty, all of that. But look what happens with the outlier. The skincare is 1% of the total revenues in this practice. All I'm going to say is it takes a ton of staff time to do events and do a ton of things that the skincare reps ask them to do. And some people are very, very good at it, some are not. But if you are up against the wall and this is not working for you, I wouldn't spend much time, money, and effort here because it's only 1% of your income. So the point is focus and invest on the winners and drop the losers. And by the way, the stats have changed a lot. Non-surgical is quickly catching up with surgical. So you really have to think about that as a surgeon. So you have to decide, are you going to play the game of throwing as much money as you can on the internet to see if you can get that 3% who are ready for surgery to come to you? Or are you going to get the non-surgical procedures, you know, invest in the lasers, invest in all the technology so you can develop a relationship early with the patient so they turn to you when they are ready for surgery? You really have to think that through. Now here's another report that's going to help you. Pull a report called Breakdown by Referral Source. I love this report that nobody ever pulls. This one tells you where are people coming from, not where are they calling from, not who came to visit you, it's who gave you money. So revenues by referral source gives you that. And if you can plainly see when you look at it this way, look what happened. Magazines and social media are 1% of the total revenues. All I'm saying here is when the internet was 46% and the word of mouth from the current patients and the word of mouth referrals from the current patients is 50%, do you really want to spend more time, money, and effort on the social media and the magazines? No, you want to first get your act together with the internet and the word of mouth referrals, keep your current patients happy, and then go off on social media tangents. And by the way, I've surveyed the top practices throughout the nation, and I asked them to do that exercise, like where the patients were coming from. And the top practices, 25% were the internet, 30% were the current patients, and 45% were the referrals coming from the word of mouth from their current patients. So that's a big deal. Once you know your numbers, the beauty is you now know how to budget proportionately to your successes. I hope that makes sense. So if this resonates with you and you want to market smarter rather than harder, and if you want to spend less time, money, and effort but get a better quality of patient, then I'm going to invite you to join me at morepatientsacademy.com. Now this is where I lay out in great detail how to set yourself up to win. And by the way, you get all of the strategies and graphic templates I showed you throughout this presentation, and you get it for a really special price since you're on here with me tonight. Now, More Patients Academy is called that because it includes 16 modules full of patient attraction strategies you can deploy starting tomorrow. Now, there are strategies and graphic files for all patients in all age groups. For example, Let's say you've decided to have a holiday event party this year. Now you watch the module called How to Hold a Patient Event That is Fun and Profitable. You learn creative strategies you hadn't thought about before to make your event truly profitable and worthwhile. And you swipe the event invitation template that I created to use for your own event. Or you see the value in pre-framing your expertise before the patient meets you. So you watch the module, How to Position the Physician as the Best Choice, and you swipe the graphics showing the graphic I did to portray your skill and expertise. Or you watch the module, How to Market to All Generations Without Going Broke, and you swipe the gift certificate and matching signage graphics that I created to use in your own practice to attract new patients through your current patients. Or you watch the module called How to Double Your Revenues This Year, and you execute the simple strategy of referral cards to spread the word about you to other preferred patients you do enjoy working with. This just makes it so much easier when you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time, and your staff's going to be more excited and motivated because they've got the clarity and the focus they need to help you grow your practice strategically. So here's what you get when you join me at More Patients Academy Online Learning Center. 16 of my most popular online training modules ready for immediate viewing on a variety of patient attraction, staff training, practice building, and leadership topics. And not only do you get the video modules to watch, you also get the PowerPoint slides so you can follow along. And you can also swipe the scripts and strategies straight from my materials. Because I will tell you, the most successful cosmetic surgery practices invest the time and the money in never-ending improvement, and they look to the experts to help them so they don't waste time reinventing the wheel or going down rabbit holes that don't lead to profits. So here's what other practices have said about More Patients Academy. More Patients Academy has been well worth the cost. We purchased the program specifically to provide staff training while Dr. Millard is out of the office. I also plan to use it for new employees. It's a cost-effective way to provide ongoing training without having to travel to meetings. In the first module, we had several ideas for things that we could immediately implement in order to improve conversion rates and distinguish ourselves from our competitors. I highly recommend this investment in your practice. Now, Dr. Ross said, Catherine's materials have been eye-opening for me and fascinating. They've helped me understand my patients and how they think, so I'm able to promote my aesthetic services to them effectively and professionally. I now see how important it is to get guidance on the patient's perspective, so they say yes to me. Dr. Olson said, just one of Catherine's strategies was worth more than $100,000 to us this past year. And I will give you a hint. It was an in-house signage strategy, and it works wonderfully. It works like magic. And then another one, I love what Dr. Fine said, your suggestions have doubled my volume. That's easy enough. So now you're probably asking, well, how much is it? Well, just so you know, my fees are $15,000 for live consulting, where I come to your office to train you, and then I set up many of the processes I outline in these modules. Or you pay $597 for each module separately when I do them online live throughout the year, and that adds up to $8,955. But you get all of these strategies and all of these modules for one low investment of only $1997. However, because you're on this webinar with me, I want to make this extra easy for you to say yes right now. So it's only one small investment of $997. And by the way, to get that, you have to go to morepatientsacademy.com, and you've got to put in the promo code called HALF, because you're getting half off. Now, this is half of the normal price, and now you'll have immediate access for a lifetime. There are no monthly fees, and there's no membership dues. You just really one time and you've got it forever. So to get this incredible offer, you just have to put the promo code HALF in the promo box at checkout at morepatientsacademy.com, and it's going to deduct it automatically. But that's not all. When you act by Saturday, I'm also including 3 extra bonuses to make this a no-brainer. So bonus number 1, you get a free sample module talking about how to set up a consistent flow of patients and revenues that more than pays the investment. Now you also get bonus number 2, which is my popular free ebook called Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying. And then bonus number 3, you actually get a strategy call with yours truly. I will personally help guide you through some of the sticking points that may come up. And if you act right now, you have to act right now before Saturday it's going to disappear. So you can dive in right away and you can make the changes you need to in order to survive and thrive in today's competitive world. So you just go to morepatientsacademy.com, put in promo code HALF, and you are good to go. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions. So if you have some, go ahead and type them into the question box to the right of your screen. And I did get some questions during the registration process, so I'm going to go ahead and answer those first. One of them was, any recommendations to market to men over 50? And in case you were late on that one, marketing to men over 50, oh boy, it's definitely not Facebook. That's not where they're hanging out. You have to understand and pick one. Like, I'll tell you what I would do. I would look in your database and pick one of the men that you absolutely love. He's one of your perfect patients. You love him, he loves you, he comes in quite regularly. Dissect his motivations and really be curious about where he gets his information, and then be where whatever answers he gives you, be there. Otherwise, you're going to have to do what everyone else does. They're on the internet, they're on, sports sites, they have banner ads moving all over the place in news channels. You're just going to be playing the game of numbers, and you're just going to be all over the place. But that's how you have to do it. Another question was, they wanted tips on effective Google marketing, and I assume they mean Google AdWords. That is not an easy game to play. That's the group where you are catering or trying to attract that 3% who is ready to buy. So your ad, your pay-per-click ad, has to be really good, and you've got to compete with other people or other practices' budgets. So for example, I've been in places where the competitor to the practice that I'm consulting with, he is drowning the community. He is blowing his budget like crazy on pay-per-click. Well, if you have a high roller like that in your community, you have to outspend him to make any inroads, and that's not what you want to do. At that point, you want to pull back. Do not do Google marketing until he runs out of money, and then go back on and do it. That's a game of really understanding what everyone else is doing so you can stand out. Or let's say they take a break, so you jump in, because you don't want to be competing with some of these people with their high budgets. It's tough. It's expensive. Okay, a question that just came in now was, with BreastDog being the highest profit margin I do, why not seek them out, especially the Mommy Makeover? Okay, and that's a super great question. By the way, those are two very different patients. The BreastDog, the 20-year-old BreastDog patient who wants boobs, that kind of patient, is very, very different from the Mommy Makeover patient who's older, more mature, has some children, may be married, might have a house with equity, might have some good credit, and who wants back what they used to have, and so they have a lot more pain to theirs. It's much more emotional for them. They used to be hot, now they're not, that kind of thing. So that's a much different kind of patient that I would absolutely spend time on. I love the Mommy Makeover group because of all the reasons I just said, and they're easy to find. Mommies are easy to find, and mommies hang around with other mommies. So they really do share with each other. Even though you don't think they do, they do. Women talk. So I highly recommend going after the Mommy Makeover. And the BreastDog is just different, just more expensive. A question was, we have a bad no-show issue with BreastDog patients. Well, for sure. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The BreastDog young girl could care less about anything but how cheap can I get this done and how fast can I get these done, because I want to get out. I want them, and I want them now. That's a tough group to cater to. So I actually would get a credit card from them, and I would go so far as to run that card through your system for $0, just to make sure it's legitimate, because they'll often give you the fake numbers. But you can also do something like this. You don't have to call it like a no-show fee. Just call it a reservation fee. And you won't charge their card unless they don't show up or unless they don't give you 24 hours notice. Just call it a reservation fee, because frankly, all of us have to give our credit cards for massages, for gyms, for hotels, all sorts of things. So I don't think it's that uncommon anymore to ask for that. And frankly, it's way worse for you to have openings than to lose a couple people because they don't want to pay a reservation fee. Another question is, our patients are very conservative and would never show those photo note cards to their friends and family. And I would question that. I would say you're probably projecting. Maybe you wouldn't, but I guarantee a female especially, that's just human nature for us, to share. We love to share. That's why we're so good at bonding with each other. We like to share. They may not scream it from the rooftops, and they may not be on your website, but if you give them their photos, I guarantee it. I actually interviewed them in my book, and I asked them, would you share your photos with others if you were if they were made available to you? And the majority said absolutely. I may not show everybody, but I'm definitely going to show my closest friends, like my sister and my neighbor and my best friend. So I absolutely, there's no downside to it. So give them their photos and give them their referral cards and see what happens. Somebody else asked, what kind of software program do you use? This is a big deal because I don't want to get into a big discussion about software, and I don't want to refer any, or recommend any, but I will say this. EMRs are not friendly to marketers. If you're trying to market and nurture your current patients, EMR reporting is horrendous. EMRs and marketing don't go together. So all I would do is say, if you can't pull reports, let me say it in a positive way, make sure you're able to pull reports like I showed you, revenues by procedure and revenues by referral source. If you can't, I would certainly look for some new software because it's that important. And the last question, how long do we get MPA? Yeah, I'm not kidding. You get it for a lifetime. You get it half off now. You get it for a lifetime. You have to get it by Saturday to get the half off. You just go to morepatientsacademy.com and the promo code is half. And with that, I thank you for your attention. I hope that was super helpful to you, and I will talk to you again. Take care.